Good evening, I'm Susan Ormiston, and this is The National. A family held by the Taliban returns to Canada. A former hostage tells us why their ordeal isn't over.
I didn't know if I was the enemy or if I was seen as a friend.
A Canadian actress goes public with her allegations against Harvey Weinstein.
He holds me by the back of the neck and faces me to the mirror.
U.S. demands for NAFTA talks could drive up the cost of making cars. Plus, Canadian champs compete in a grueling sport that's growing fast.
As soon as we tried it, we sort of were like, oh, this is this is something we really like.
They're free and finally nearly home after being held captive for 5 long years in Afghanistan, where their 3 children were born. Canadian Joshua Boyle, his American wife, Caitlin Coleman, and those young kids are arriving tonight in Toronto. The CBC's Nicole Ireland is at Pearson Airport waiting for a reunion with anxious and relieved family. Nicole.
Well, Susan, we are here at Pearson. We are waiting to see if Joshua Boyle and Caitlin Coleman, along with their 3 children, do come through those doors behind me. A flight did arrive from the UK about 25 minutes ago. We still haven't seen any sign of them. Here's what we do know. We do know that the couple and their children left Pakistan and went to the UK. Pakistan, of course, is where they were rescued, we believe, a couple of days ago. We're not sure about the details of that rescue. The government of Canada is keeping that quite tight-lipped. We do know, however, that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has thanked the U.S. and the Pakistani army for whatever role they did play in that. So at the moment, we have not seen them. We are hoping to perhaps catch a glimpse of a very emotional reunion when they come through that door.
Thanks, Nicole. We'll be watching with you throughout the evening. Well, the family's arrival is certainly a moment of celebration, but as Hannah Thibodeau reports, their ordeal may not be truly over for months, even years to come.
Joshua Boyle, his wife Caitlin Coleman, and their 3 children will have a lot to deal with to adjust to life now. This man understands what they'll face.
It will be extremely confusing for Joshua and Caitlin.
In 2008, Jerry Van Dyke was working as a journalist when he was captured by the Haqqani Network, a group linked to the Taliban. He was released 45 days later. Van Dyke says Joshua and his family will be offered counseling and assistance, but he says they'll also face tough questions, just like he did from security agencies.
Personally, I didn't like the way I was treated. I felt initially they were very aggressive in the way in which I was treated, and I honestly said, am I a prisoner again? I didn't know if I was the enemy or if I was seen as a friend, because of what in the world were you doing up in the mountains going around and being with these people in the first place, that sort of thing. So their problem is going to be, what in the world were you doing in that part of the world, and ended up with the Taliban.
Tough questions like that are already being asked by Caitlin's father, telling ABC News he's angry with Joshua Boyle for going to Afghanistan in the first place.
You know, taking your pregnant wife to a very dangerous place, to me, and the kind of person that I am, it's unconscionable.
Details from that danger zone could also provide key intelligence information.
If we could identify some of the captors, if in fact they are already known to us through other intelligence operations, then we can start talking about maybe the possibility of locating them and either bringing them, arresting them and bringing them to justice, or frankly, more likely, droning them or killing them, which often happens in Afghanistan and Pakistan.
Gursky says the intelligence gathering has to begin quickly, while Boyle and Coleman's memories are still fresh. Jerry Van Dyke says that he was grilled within days of his release, but the questioning went on for over a year. Hannah Thibodeau, CBC News, Ottawa.
And for more on what the Boyle family will go through in the coming days and weeks, earlier I spoke to Samantha Nutt. She's founder of War Child Canada. So Sam, would this family be monitored for a period of time, and by whom?
Well, Susan, we don't know exactly what the plan will be, but it's safe to assume that they will be certainly questioned repeatedly on the part of Canadian intelligence officials, most likely U.S. intelligence officials if that opportunity arises. They will be sharing information as this progresses, and certainly their movements would be monitored. People would, the intelligence community would want to know where they are and what they are doing, at least in the initial phase of their return.
And what are the greatest challenges they face reintegrating?
Well, they would face tremendous challenges. They have been in captivity for 5 years. They have 3 children who have been raised in captivity. We don't know what level of abuse and torture they have experienced, so they will have tremendous psychological needs moving forward. They will definitely need some kind of psychotherapeutic intervention. They may have a degree of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and the children as well. I mean, we need to remember the eldest is about 5 years of age, has never been in school, has probably not socialized outside of the immediate family, and they're going to need tremendous supports in order to fully reintegrate back into the community and to feel as if they are living a normal life. And we know from a children's perspective anyway that that's critically important.
And this PTSD thing, whether it's diagnosed or not, must be very real when you come out of a confinement like that.
Absolutely. I mean, these are people who would not have known from one day to the next if they might be killed, if they might be injured in some way, if they might be assaulted, experience physical violence. I mean, that is a horrifying way to live your life. And so to emerge from that and to come back to Canadian society, for example, I mean, that to feel as if, to feel well supported, to feel as if people actually understand you, I mean, that is a very, very challenging integration process. And so, you know, it's expected that they will have resources in order to be able to cope with that.
Will the resources be available to them?
That will partly depend, Susan, on where they end up ultimately living, relocating. There are certainly resources available, but we need to remember that since September 11th, actually, there have been about 30 Canadians who've been taken hostage. So in the scheme of things, there aren't necessarily psychologists, psychiatrists that have huge experience dealing with this unique situation. However, there are people who have experienced similar situations and will be well trained and well qualified to be able to support them as long as they're patched in with those resources.
All right, Samantha, thanks.
Thank you.
We're watching that scene at Pearson Airport. There is a report from the Associated Press that the family has arrived at the airport tonight. We'll update you throughout the program. More high-profile